does take the win in that game.
Yep, and coming up in our next match, it is going to be on Waystation. Coming out for Integrity Gaming is going to be HTW, and for Team Killing Spree, it is going to be Deadzerg. Hopefully that's not
right.
a precursor.
So HTW from Integrity Gaming, he has a Twitter. You can find him at HTWHTW. He plays StarCraft competitively since he fell in love with Brood War in his early teens. He's got a passion for competitive real-time strategy games, and that passion has garnered him the achievement of Grandmaster after a decade of playing StarCraft.
That's a long time.
It is a long time. He's proven himself to be an extremely competent player that will only continue to improve in his team, and that is what they have to say about him. HTW will be playing in this next match.
All right, with that, we're going to jump right on into the game on the map Waystation. This is going to be game number 2 in this best of 7 series. In the lower right-hand corner, representing Integrity Gaming, and we're also wearing the color pink, it is HTW.
And in the top left-hand corner, playing the Protoss race and representing Team Killing Spree, it is Deadzerg.
Interestingly enough, Deadzerg is not a Zerg at all.
No, but it almost seems like a challenge to his opponent. He says, I will make you dead in my name.
It is true. It's true. So, Waystation, one of the larger maps in the map pool, a long distance by ground. We've seen a lot of strategies out of Protoss. Looks like this one is going to be a standard, typical forge fast expand with that pylon going on right out front there. However, it is going to take a long time for that initial overlord of HGW to get across there to see what exactly that is.
And as if by listening to your advice, HTW is sending out a drone to do that scout. He wants to know what's going on, what he's going up against here.
Yeah, I definitely feel like in PvZ, I mean, on both accounts, both players really need to know what's going on. I mean, obviously that applies to every game ever. But Protoss versus Zerg, I feel, is one of the most build order dependent matches, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Sure, yeah. Deadzerg now sending a probe out of his own to see what's going on, and looks like HTW wanted to get a second look at what was going on with that.
It's like a 15 hatch coming out of HTW. He's going to be canceling it, though. What in the world?
Well, he sees that. I think he sees that Forge Fast expand and decides he's just going to take his opponent's natural. All right.
Well, there you go. And, you know, we sort of laugh at this every time we see this, but it is probably, I would have to just make up the statistic that it's successful probably 60% of the time. And, of course, we know that 72% of all statistics are made up on the spot anyway, but...
Well, this is ballsy. I mean, the forge was just about done. The cannon's already going down. He's delaying mining time for a lot of these probes, as he was forced to pull them down to keep doing damage. But I mean, even if HTW cancels this at this point, like, he's really only out what, 75 minerals?
Yeah, and there is
Sorry, go ahead.
There's a pylon here at the natural expansion of HTW, so he's fighting back a little bit by denying him his natural there once he does end up canceling this.
And there it is. But still going for the deny on that Nexus, just being incredibly annoying with that drone.
Oh, as a Protoss, this is probably one of the most frustrating things ever, because it just throws off your build altogether. But as we know, the best players in the world will be able to adjust on the fly. He does get that down. The drone is continuing to scout around and stay out of range of that cannon. The wall at the front will be completed here shortly by Deadzerg, and let me tell you what, it is very confusing. I have to check myself every time I say one of their names, because given Deadzerg's name, I always want to superimpose them upon each other.
So HTW is now taking his natural expansion, his second base, at the close to 5-minute mark. That is not ideal as a Zerg. He was able to push his opponent back somewhat, but he's just going to double expand here, and I mean, he just has to. Yeah,
I agree with that. So, in your opinion, what do you think of that play? Did it kind of leave them both on an even footing, or put anyone at an advantage?
I like that play. I like it that because it's cheeky, and I like it when you can kind of poke at your opponent like that. But if anybody's at an advantage here, I'd say that Deadzerg's the one at the advantage for getting his expansion down a little bit quicker.
Yeah, I feel like it is at least even, or maybe even slightly in favor of HTW, so I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you there, because while while Dead Zerg is going to get his expansion down, it is going to slow down the things coming out from him. So HEW does have the ability to double expand and should be able to defend it. We'll see. I would expect to see some more heavy-duty units out of him, maybe some roaches or a lot of Zerglings here eventually, but we'll see. We've seen a lot of Protoss lately going for the Warp Prism with the early Warpins of Sentries, a couple Stalkers, and a large number of Zealots to push down and take down that third base relatively quickly. So we will see what Dead Zerg ends up coming out with here. He hasn't gone too crazy on the gas, still just has 2 in his main base, mining 3 out of each, so banking up enough to get his tech down, but not enough to go absolutely crazy on all the tech. Stargate is coming down, so likely we'll see some Phoenix coming out for him.
Yeah, and it's important to point out that there's only 1 Zealot right now for Dead Zerg.
Yeah, and I think that's where he got slowed down. You know, his tech is going to be a little bit more costly since he wasn't able to get that expansion up as fast, so the units will be a little less. Obviously, he had some tech in mind he wanted to go for, so he's going to be spending his money on that rather than those early units. But Zergling's now at the front of Dead Zerg's base. Nowhere to go as there is a Zealot blocking it off, although he does pump up there and see that Stargate, so he's going to know what to expect. Phoenix halfway done here for Dead Zerg.
That's right. Probe count currently 31 for HTW, 38 for Dead Zerg, so the Protoss is leading in the probe count, or the worker count, rather. Currently, that's not the best situation for Zerg, but with 3 bases, you're going to be able to catch up fairly quickly if you choose to. Yeah,
he is producing 8 drones at a time, so he's going to be catching up extremely quickly, getting +1/+1 now for his ground units. A smart move. Looks like we're going to probably be seeing more of the Zergling-type units coming out. Robo coming down in addition to that Stargate, so this is fairly interesting here. Definitely going to be, it looks like more of a classic Wings of Liberty build, to be honest, where you get 4 to 5 Phoenix, poke around, kill off some Overlords, and harass the Zerg a bit while teching into Colossus.
And that drone that was in Dead Zerg's base finally gets taken out, but not before scouting that robotics facility. So that's going to make him feel a little bit better about, you know, the current tech path that he's going down. That Stargate clearly is not the total tech that's going to be happening. In fact, we see 3 gateways coming down behind that and robotics bay as well. So definitely more ground play coming from Ground Zerg than the Stargate. The Feign into air is not going to HTW is not going to be biting on that bait.
Yeah, I definitely would agree with you with the use of the word feign, because lately it has been a bit more of what it is, as other builds have been more popular. I don't see this Phoenix into Colossus as much as we did in Wings of Liberty, but that's definitely what he's going for here, and I like HEW's reaction, as you said, not overcommitting to the defense of the Phoenix, because there's not really going to be more than those 4 or 5 of them.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a misstep there by Dead Zerg. Had the Queen in his grip, but dropped it, and it was able to scurry away to safety. Oops.
Warp Prism now is going to be coming out in the meantime for Dead Zerg, so he might want to get a bit of that push on. He is killing quite a few drones over here for HEW. Looks like a total of 4 killed so far, so starting to get a little bit of value out of those Phoenix. Unfortunately, there is not a Overlord's Lost tab, as there's a Drone's Lost tab, so we can't tell exactly how much he's gotten done there, but it definitely limits the scouting ability of the Zerg, so that's definitely the one main thing. Can't have them Overlords spread all over the map.
Both players kind of running some fairly thin offenses and defenses here, though, as HTW moving out with just a handful of Lings. Really doesn't have a whole lot of money. He did get kind of an influx there in minerals, but he's still having to deal with these Phoenix in his base. And both players, it looks like finally Dead Zerg is kind of teching into the where he wants to go. The Colossus are in production, Zealots are out.
Look at that hive allegation, an 11-minute hive. And the Phoenix are going to fly right in and scout that. So we're going to see some swarm hoes here?
It's possible. He did get that infestation pit, but it's possible that was only just for the lair. He's got the he's getting the +2/+2 ground upgrades, so I'm going to say he's going to go for those Ultralisks. And that's going to be pretty useful against Colossus, I'd say.
Yeah, especially all the Zealots that typically accompany them, as the Zealots use the minerals. But actually surprised that HW is not doing a little bit more to try and prevent this third base. He did poke in here with those Lings and was keeping an eye on it with a single Ling. However, Deadzerg now able to fairly comfortably establish this base now with one Colossus, couple sentries, and a well-protected cannon here. Zerglings are going to come in to scout it out, but going to sacrifice one of their buddies and run away, saying, no, don't.
Yeah. That lead scout Ling, so important. And HTW just, he's really picking his engagements here. He doesn't have a whole lot of units to spare, and it looks like infestors are coming down. 5 are in production.
Wow, really interested to see what ends up coming out here, because it's certainly not seeing the Ultra. This is that Colossus doing so much damage to the Zerglings, but getting a little bit of a surround there. One Colossus is starting to fall, but killing off those Zerglings faster than they can do damage. Really only took a good deal of shield damage there, not a whole lot of hull damage. The Phoenix still continuing to scout around the base of HEW. This being probably one of the least aggressive PVZs we've seen in quite a while.
Yeah, it really is. Both of them kind of just sat back and let the other one do whatever they want.
2 Zealots did actually kill a hatchery down here for a 4th base. No cancel was had, so no refund policy on that one.
Not at all. These Phoenix seem to be largely forgotten for Deadzerg, sitting on top of creep at this point, but just not doing a whole lot.
Yeah, he didn't really get much value out of them other than the fact that he did clear out some overlords, and he's just kind of using them to poke in from time to time to see what the tech choices are for HGW. And it looks like your postulation was correct, as there is an Ultralisk Cavern coming down. Looks like a warp-in of Zealots was had in the main base from that Warp Prism in a really sneaky position there between that infestation pit, so the Zerglings having a hard time getting them, taking a lot of damage. But now the Ultralisk Den is done. High Templar coming out for Deadzerg as well as Storm. So definitely a couple of late-game builds here from both of these players.
Yeah, and kind of, sprinting towards them. It seems like both players kind of got the idea that they're both doing this almost like a gentleman's agreement of we're just going to,
No attack, 20 minutes.
Right, exactly, yeah. Just keep tabs on you, but we're not really going to do a whole lot to each other.
No, but there are a good number of Ultralisks coming out now, 4 in total with the, I'm actually surprised that if he has not reached more Zealot Warpins in the main base with this Warp Prism being a harassment. Oh no, the Infestor's getting forgotten a bit there as the Zealot's taking some pot shots at him, although not really getting one. What are those Infestors doing? Get out of there.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't get targeted down, frankly, as they did kind of just run in there and sit there, but the Zerglings did run in to save the day at the last minute. Small mistakes and small miracles for HTW there.
Yes, indeed. So now some Immortals coming out, although we have not seen any Roaches so far, but Immortal is going to be the unit that you need to take down those Ultralisks. 3 more in production. Looks like the grand total on the field is 4 right now, so it's going to be up to a total of 7 here very shortly. That is a lot of Ultralisks, especially considering the number of Zealots we're seeing on the field right now.
Yeah, I'm really liking kind of where this composition is going here with the Infestors and the Lings. Especially against this army that Deadzerg has, I think it's going to be fairly useful here. I mean, you got to be wary of those storms, of course. Anytime you play with Zerglings, you've got to be wary of those storms. And if he's good with those High Templar, he's going to be able to get those feedbacks off on the Infestors, and suddenly that high potential unit that was very expensive is just completely gone.
The only thing I don't like about HGW's play so far is he's not really using his Zerglings to poke around. This 4th base over here for Deadzerg is completely undefended, so some Zerglings, if nothing else, could at least pull his army back and maybe even kill it off, but sort of just letting Deadzerg expand at will, and likewise Deadzerg not really stopping HGW all that much. He has done a few Warp Prism Warpins of Zealots, but beyond that, not a whole lot of expansion stopping. Both players just, as you said, having that gentleman's agreement, go nuts, we're going to attack each other at 20 minutes.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, there are Zerglings running around, but they're more just kind of keeping tabs on things. They're not really doing a whole lot of actual attacking, whereas Deadzerg is kind of feeling not like he's not going to be doing that, as Phoenix are moving across the map. Once again, there is a Zealot in accompaniment as well, and small contingency of Zerglings, but not really doing a whole lot in the middle of the map. Now those Phoenix all got caught in those fungals, and they could be easily taken down here.
Yeah, but what Deadzerg did see is there's a lot of queens associated with these Ultralisks, so definitely stacking up the number of queens to get those transfuses down, and he hasn't really gotten too many Infestors yet. There is a Nidus network on the field. Both players are basically at 200 or just shy of, so I mean, we're getting to a point where we're going to see an attack here pretty shortly. Putting down a Nidus exit here in the middle of the map, going to pop those queens out to give a little bit of a hop, skip, and a jump to that creep spread across the map, as that is so critical when you are trying to lumber those queens across the map with those Ultralisks.
Yeah, especially on a map this big, you really just kind of have to take a shortcut to get those queens across unless you wanted to start walking them at 10 minutes and just get them there now.
Yeah, so predictions here, Gallegation. I mean, there aren't that many Immortals here on the field for Dead Zerg, so it's going to be a little bit difficult, but we'll have to see. There are a lot of Archons here, though.
There are indeed, and I like this play right now where he's putting down all these pylons to kind of zone out his opponent, and that's going to work really well. As there's just not going to be a whole lot that's able to get through there, but it looks like HTW's decided, okay, you're going to put pylons down there, I'll attack on another front, and Zerg's kind of responding to that with, okay, well, I'll just build pylons on that front too.
Yeah, this definitely...
But here comes the engagement, and the Lings are going in, immediately getting obliterated, Fungals go down, and feedbacks go down as well, and HTW is forced to retreat.
Yeah, this is one of the things I first saw from Grubby a long time ago, building those pylon walls to just keep the Ultralisks back and force the Zerglings and other units to come up, as you said. But yeah, definitely, I mean, those pylons, even though they weren't even complete, definitely shut it down because the damage output of those Colossus and Immortals back there, definitely too much for the Ultralisk to even stand around for half a second, chewing away at those pylons.
Yep, and so HTW now lumbering his way back home. The Nidus network abandoned like a medieval castle.
A couple more Zealots warped into the third base here of HTW by Dead Zerg, now going to be flying that Warp Prism across. Oh, and he does spot the Greater Spire coming down as well as the Corruptors, so he is going to know that there are Corruptors on the field to deal with those Colossus and the eventual Broodlords.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what Dead Zerg decides to do in response to that. He doesn't really have any supply cap.
You know, Gallegation, what I would tell you the best thing he could do in response is to get a mothership with the Vortex and a bunch of storms, and oh wait, we can't do that anymore.
Well, his current response is to make a few DTs and run them forward, but HTW right on top of that was able even just to attack his own units to kill those. Oh, I'm sorry, he did have a detector, and so they were able to see two of those dying immediately.
There is one down here at the fourth base of HEW is going to have to come back and deal with. He has detection here, but nothing to kill it. But, I mean, as you were saying, look at these pylon walls now. This is completely zoned off, and now, because of that, Dead Zerg feels completely comfortable with expanding to a fifth base over here on the right. I mean, I really feel like this is where some Zerglings should be, some sort of throwaway Zerglings should be used to poke at some of the bases of Dead Zerg.
Absolutely. I mean, these pylon walls are basically the thing that he's relying on for defenses. There's not cannons, there's not anything else. He could easily run a Zergling group over into that left-handed base and do a lot of damage there. I guess there is one cannon that's pretty well defended, but he could still get a decent amount done.
Yeah, now Dead Zerg just sacrificing these Zealots as he needs to build more high-tech units, and looks like that unit of choice is going to be Tempest, but he needs that supply, so just sending those across the map to their death, and as they die, the number of Tempests continues to grow. I don't know how I feel about Tempest, though. The damage output of these Ultralisks and Broodlords are going to be pretty nutso.
Yeah, but Archons are joining the mix as well, as there are 5 being morphed together right now.
Yeah, there's just a lot of units here for Dead. This is going to be a engagement that's going to be hard to predict for sure. But continuing to spread the creep up to that pylon hill there, Broodlord's going to be able to start whacking away at those pylons to open up the alley for his Ultralisks.
And I feel like Dead Zerg's kind of got to just let this happen to increase his Tempest count and get those together. Infestor coming forward, big fungal there on the majority of the units, another fungal going down, and HCW is playing some very old school Broodlord Infestor, but now the Ultralisks are moving in and deciding to join the fray, going head to head with the Archons, but munching their way through, making their way up to the Colossus. The Colossus are forced to run away, and it's looking like it's just a party of Tempest here at the moment.
Yeah, that was definitely pretty scary with those Ultralisks with their chitinous plating with an armor of 5. Not a lot of damage can be done to them, and honestly, I feel like the Immortal count needed to be a lot higher than that to be able to chew through them. Those Colossus just not able to do that much to that great of a number of Ultralisks, especially with all those queens behind it with the transfuses.
So now HTW is free to move in to attack the bases. Warp gates are being attacked so that they can fit these lumbering Ultralisks in to get damage done, and it looks like he's going to be rallying here, as there are some more issues coming on the way.
Yeah, and the food of HGW is still at 200. He lost a lot of the lighter units, but now he's going to be making some meatless, as they are quite good against Tempest.
Yeah, and he's unfortunately Dedzerg just isn't able to keep his Tempest numbers up either. He's lost quite a few. I mean, he's getting more in the fray now. He's got looks like 6 there, but none are in production. Looks like Phoenix are the weapon of choice at this point. In the meantime, HTW is just kind of able to chew apart whatever expansions he chooses to.
Yeah, I mean, it's really going to be tough, because really the game changer here is the number of queens that HW has. He has almost 16 queens. It's going to be a total of 14. And I mean, it's going to make a lot of these units basically invincible, especially with the big heavy units like Ultralisk. And, you know, Tempests just aren't going to get it done. I mean, they're a good start here, but the Broodlords are largely gone, which is going to be the main thing that the Tempests are going to work with, and there's going to be nothing to hold back this army of Ultralisks. Yes, the Tempests are going to be able to do a lot of damage to them, but there's nothing to really stop their advance to allow that damage to be done.
Absolutely. Dedzerg is really preparing. Now he's got a single Immortal in production, but he's really preparing for the air assault, but he's not really focused on the ground so much. And that might be the thing that's the real threat here.
Yeah, another hatchery here taken out by a couple of DTs. An Observer did come in, but unfortunately Zerglings are no match for DTs, as HGW is trying to continue to expand here, as he does have quite a bit of trying to put down his Spire again after it was originally taken out by DTs as well. So DT's starting to maybe get Dedzerg back into this a little bit, but both players are starting to run into the fact that their bases are just about mined out.
Yep, and it looks like HGW is expanding very forwardly, is taking a base almost in Protoss territory there, continuing to remote mine from that base that was destroyed, and these DTs have been worth their weight in gold, forcing HGW to move all the way back home, and giving Dedzerg a little bit of room to breathe here.
Yeah, I mean, how many Ultralisks does it take to kill a DT allegation?
Well, it depends on whether there's a detector.
Yes. I almost feel like he could have just attacked one of his own Ultralisks and just the splash would have gotten it. But now Dedzerg are going to be remote mining here, as his bases are just about mined out. Third base has only a little bit of minerals left, but the natural end main are completely gone. This gateway totally not necessary anymore, so that is going to go the way of something that died. I lost my joke there.
There you go. So HTW moving again across the map, not realizing that there's still a Dark Templar in his base. It's not really doing a whole lot, so it's easy to forgive him that mistake. However, Dedzerg could remember that it's there at any time and continue to do some decent damage.
Yeah, it's actually not doing anything. It's just kind of hanging out there.
Yeah, but it's smart enough to stand outside of the range of vision of that Spore Crawler, so he's pretty well disguised.
So the number of Phoenix on the field is definitely quite high. I mean, there are a good number of meatlists, but the Corruptors here are definitely going to offset those Phoenix. The Phoenix doing some damage there to the cannon. The probes do evacuate base, running over to the opposite fourth base that is now in place.
And those Phoenix just got a massive fungal taken down on them. They're trying to lift up the Infestors to do what damage they can before they go down, and it almost looks like the Dedzerg is pressing that. It almost seemed like an impromptu attack. I'm not sure if that's when he meant to engage, but it ended up working out okay. And now all these these Ultralisks are moving forward and running headlong into the Immortals. The Infestors are virtually gone, and HGW's army was just kind of spread all over the place, but yet he still had the forces to make a huge advance here. Corruptors going up against Tempest, Phoenix coming in from the left flank and taking out the edges here of the Corruptors.
I'd say it's definitely official. Dedzerg is in a really tough spot here. I mean, pretty much all he has left is a decent group of Phoenix, but he's going to be poking away at those Corruptors. Those Corruptors don't want to fight back. Oh, insane! Fungal catches every single one of those Phoenix, but GG is had there as he realizes there is nothing left to do. Gallegation, that was an insane PVZ, and by insane, it was very different insane than we usually, we've had a lot of these aggressive games lately, and this has been one of, the best word I can use to describe it is what you said, a gentleman's agreement. It's like they went into it saying, you know what, I've had a lot of really intense games, I just want to build my town, man, I want to Sim City it up, and then they clashed in the middle, and to be honest, I mean, flipping back to the screen here, just to show this, I mean, in the end, it was +3 attack upgrades for Dedzerg, and that's it. That's the only upgrades he had, while we look at HCW's was +3 +3/+3 plus chitinous plating for the Ultralisk, which was the huge advantage, and the other range and air upgrades were fairly insignificant. But that's why those Ultralisks were just able to tear through the front line so fast.
Oh yeah, they were doing a ton of damage. Going back to kind of the previous joke, so to speak, of the Gentleman's Agreement, it reminded me a lot of, like, let's just remember what the glory days of Wings of Liberty. You get your Protoss ball, I'll get, my Infestor and Broodlord and Queen Ultralisk, and we'll just kind of clash in the middle and see whose E-Peen is bigger.
Yeah, the only difference is that Protoss doesn't have the Archon Toilet in its arsenal any longer.
Yeah.
That is one of my favorite things. But alas, that is going to put the score at 2-0 in favor of Integrity Gaming. So Integrity coming out with a vengeance here against Team Killing Spree. But can they hold it up? We will see. But first, real quick, we want to